studio by the Count, Michael Bisping. Do you still go by the Count?
Do you know what? I try not to. I mean, I am, that is my fight name, but it isn't something, that you'll hear me talk about, but I am actually a Polish Count.
Really?
No, seriously, yeah, Polish aristocracy. It's a very, very long story, which I won't bore you with. But back in the Middle Ages, one of my ancestors played a part, was rewarded with land and title of a count. And up until the Second World War, my family were living a very, very nice lifestyle until the Germans invaded Poland and lined all my family up against the wall and shot them all dead. My granddad was one of the only survivors to make it to England. Had my dad had me. Hence, therefore, Michael the Count Bisping.
I can relate. Yeah, my grandfather actually escaped Auschwitz.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow, that's heavy, man.
All of his siblings, minus
Incredible.
one of them, was wiped out by the Germans as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, for me, it wasn't something that I was looking to use, but my first fight manager that I had, he thought it would be great, and he told the announcer, and it just kind of stuck, and I thought, yeah, if you're going to have a nickname, why not? It's better than the Mauler or the Psycho. Do you know what I mean? It's a little more revered.
Both of those have actually been used, which is
I'm sure they have, yeah. Probably by a couple of no doubt.
Psycho Beltran, they've been used.
Yeah, nice.
So I was listening to Chael Sonnen's podcast earlier this week. He said, you're bigger than George, but he's been in the cage with both of you and thinks that George is stronger. Do you think that could be true?
Well, you could ask George. Well, if you ask Chael, who I had a grappling match with last year on a platform called... Well, never mind. But I had a professional grappling match with Chael last year. Bearing in mind that I am supposedly, for those people that can't see, I'm doing quote unquote a kickboxer. Chael couldn't take me down. He couldn't do anything, and we fought to a draw. So listen, Chael Sonnen talks out of his ass. We know this. Chael Sonnen said recently that I haven't, because I said I'm going to try and take George out in the first round. And Chael was like, Bisping, he hasn't taken anybody out in one round ever. It's like, hold on a minute. Yeah, I knocked out Lou Rockhold. And that prompted me to go through my record, which is not something I generally do. And I think I've got around 15 first-round stoppages. So Chael, once again, is incorrect and doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
So, I mentioned
other
Chael.
than taking steroids.
I'm going to mention.
So he just pipe down and shut up.
Yeah, he actually admits to that one, right? So that's not like slander.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you can admit to it. It's like being an asshole. I admit to being an asshole. Doesn't mean I'm not an asshole.
So if someone calls you that, it's not slander or libel,
no,
right?
No, it's not. You're right at the money.
So another guy that I had on my podcast actually just this week was Jorge Masvidal, another guy who doesn't.
Oh,
like
yeah.
So he says you've never defended against the top 10 opponent. What's his beef? Where does his beef come from?
Well, listen, I don't want to sit here talking about Jorge Masvidal because honestly I have no idea who he is. I've seen his name pipe up on social media. He hasn't. He isn't fit to be mentioned in the same sentence as me. So I'm not going to waste time talking about him.
I find it strange. People keep calling you out. You recently said, I guess a couple months ago, this might be your last fight. Yet everybody's still calling you out. Do they think that you're going to fight 5-6 more times?
People want to listen. It used to be back in the day. I mean, of course, I always think I deserve more, but I always got a decent compensation from the UFC, and people used to think, "Wow, shit! If I beat Bisping, maybe I'll get that." On top of that, they used to look at me and think, they used to look at me and think his skill set isn't very good. Now, there's a reason why I've won more fights than anybody in the history of the UFC. It's not because I'm an easy fight, but people do kind of get that impression when they see me on TV, and that's what George has done here. George has fallen into the trap of thinking he can beat me, and people over the years have thought, here's a guy, he's got a lot of recognition, and a guy that I think I can beat, and they call me out, and then they get their ass kicked, and then we never hear from them again, and it's on to the next one.
You've had all of these press conferences with George recently. Are you having fun picking on him? It seems like English is a second language. He's getting frustrated.
He speaks good enough English. Of course I am. I'm just having fun. I mean, I like George. I like him. I respect him. I think he's fantastic. I think he's a great athlete. And if you look, I mean, not that I'm sure you've got better things to do with your time, but over the years, when people used to say to me, what advice have you got for up-and-coming mixed martial artists? I always used to say, emulate George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre is a consummate professional. He's a professional. He handles himself well. All this, I've always said that about George. But we're going to fight now. So I'm not going to spend all the time leading up to the fight kissing his ass and saying how good he is. I'm going to do quite the opposite. I'm going to try and berate him. I'm going to try and get him to doubt himself. I'm going to try and make him believe that he shouldn't be stepping into an octagon with me. And if I can do that, if I can even make him question himself a little bit, then that's going to affect how he fights. Because confidence is a fighter's best friend. Okay, so that's why every time I fight with somebody, I remind them of their losses and how they lost and if they got knocked out or choked out or whatever, or that I'm the bigger guy and I'm used to fighting bigger guys. Because he can sit up there at the press conference, but I know for a fact when he's laid in bed at night and he's trying to sleep and the fight gets closer, you think about these things because you can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself. You can't do it. And he knows I'm the bigger guy. He knows I'm used to fighting bigger guys. So I'm trying to put this into his mind. Not because I dislike George St. Pierre, because I'm trying to win the fight. Okay, so this is psychological warfare leading up to the fight.
You mentioned I have better things to do with my life. I'm not sure how true that is, but one of those things is listening to your podcast with Louis J. Gomez. I listen to it weekly.
Yes, thank you.
It's a great show. I did notice an Easter egg, though, in this week's episode that nobody has asked you about just yet. So back at the World MMA Awards, you got into a bit of a verbal altercation with Eddie Bravo. And I heard you during the podcast say you've been working out at 10th Planet. So what's going on?
No, listen, me and Eddie were texting shortly after that. And by the way, that night, incidentally, was the night before the first press conference with George St. Pierre.
Well, you were intoxicated?
Yeah, I was intoxicated. I was very intoxicated. I went to Vegas and I was probably 37 now. I'm 38 years old. I'm an Englishman. If I'm training for a fight, I'm very, very disciplined. Simple as that. And there's no one trains harder than me or that is more disciplined. But outside of that, if I'm not, and I'm in Vegas, and I'm at an award show, and I've won a couple of awards, and I've got no fight.
Not in camp,
we're all in Vegas. Half of the bloody people there that are flown in, they're all drinking. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a grown man. So I'm letting my hair down a bit. I had a few drinks and, in typical fashion, one leads to two and two leads to 20. You know what I'm saying? And the next day you feel like And that night, me and Eddie Bravo, we got into a stupid argument, and it really was. It was just alcohol talking, and there was actually nothing too venomous about it. We were just having a heated debate. That's all it was, and it was people around us that were trying to intervene, but we were fine. There was never close to fisticuffs or anything like that. And then the next day, in fact, we were texting each other, laughing, saying, "Oh, I said, yeah, I'm an asshole when I've had a drink," and he's like, "Dude, me too." You know what I mean? So people made a big thing out of that. It was nothing, and the only reason I was drinking was because George wanted more time before we fought, because he either wanted to do more sit-ups, more press-ups, more bicep curls, more protein shakes, or he wanted to get the steroids out of his system. I don't know. You make your own mind up.
So you keep bringing up steroids. Is this something that you actually know deep down, or do you just know this something that greatly insults him?
I heard a story that, I was shocked when I heard it. I won't say it because I don't want to throw the person who I heard it from under a bus. But let's just say that I am wholly convinced that George used to take steroids.
Really? So you say that with conviction?
It's not just something you're saying to annoy him. I'm not gonna throw the guy who told me this story under a bus.
No, I understand that. I'm not asking for names.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But George was always one of the people that were demanding for.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I know. The double bluffer. The double bluffer is the best bluff.
I got you. Well,
you could say the same about me.
What? How's that?
Well, because I'm a big advocate for clean sport, so you could say that maybe I'm being the Lance Armstrong of the UFC, which I'm not, But if I'm saying George is double bluffing, I'm saying the same could apply to me. But
I'm not going to say that.
I've never taken a steroid in my life. Yeah. Listen, do I think he's clean? Of course he is. Do I think he's done something at some point? Yeah, I do, yeah.
All right, well, people online you've mentioned have said you're trying to copy McGregor. Do you just send them old links to your press conferences like you and Jorge Rivera?
Listen, Conor's great. Conor's amazing in what he's done and what he's achieved in this sport. It really is. And I take my hat off to him. He's made a ton of money. He's super famous all over the world. There's no one from the UFC that's going to be as famous ever, I think. He's done amazing things. I have never, ever once tried to copy Conor McGregor, though. I don't look at a 5'9" Irishman and think, oh, I want to be that guy. I'm happy being a 6'2" Englishman. I'm very happy being Michael Bisping. And prior to Conor McGregor even fighting, and as I said, this isn't a negative on Conor McGregor. I've always been this way. I've always been abrasive. I've always talked smack like this. And I've been doing this since I was 6 years old. I started martial arts and fighting when I was 8 years old. I've always been like this. I'm not trying to copy Conor McGregor. That's only people that are new to the sport, that don't know anything, that maybe are Conor McGregor fans, because he is that level of a star that does transcend the mainstream. He does get people coming back to the sport and they go, oh, this guy's trying to copy him. It's like, come on, give me a break. I've been doing this forever.
We need to get the Bisping Volto